Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Jason Dye. We're going to be discussing his amazing novel, Initium Novum, New Beginnings. Now, it's available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, pretty much wherever books are sold. But people, you got to head on over to his personal website to gather everything that he has in store. And I mean everything, okay? Because Jason has been putting in some work, and he has a lot to offer. Now, Initium Novum is the only book that has been released so far, and that's the main one you're going to want to start with. But head on over to his personal site. It's author.net. There, you'll find more information on Jason himself, more information on this fantastic novel. But people, get this. He has 7 other books that are in creation, 2 of which are sequels to Initium Novum. So I'm telling you, this roller coaster is never ending, right? I mean, it is just going, and you're going to want to get involved in all of it, okay? By the time we've concluded here today, you're going to understand why I say that, because, of course, the precipice for all of this is Initium Novum, New Beginnings, and you're going to want to get your hands on it. Now, before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity and point out that Jason was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by one of the best advertising firms in the business. And people, you already know, I'm talking about Author Reputation Press. So listen to me. If you're a writer out there, you have a book that you've written, although now you find yourself at what appears to be a dead end because you need help moving the book you just wrote. Well, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give. Contact ARP and have their fantastic team assist you in your process. I'm telling you, this is what they specialize in. So head on over to authorreputationpress.com today and gather all of the ways that they're going to help maximize your creative endeavors. And listen, it is a true pleasure, okay? An absolute delight to have Jason here on the line. Now, as I mentioned to you, you're going to want to sit back and strap in for this because it is a nonstop page turner. And at the end of the day, well, don't take my word for it, okay? Take Jason's. It's his book. He's written it. He's done the research. And he's going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. So sit back, enjoy this fantastic ride that you're getting ready to take. Jason, first and foremost, man, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Benji, for having me on. It's a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, man. This is something I think we need, right? Just an escape to get us out of the everyday pressures that we're dealing with currently and get lost in a fantastic book, which also, in my opinion, could have some pretty stark contrasts to reality, and we'll go into that a little later on. But, Jason, before we go into the book, start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
Sure. So I'm a Midwesterner. I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. I spent 11 years in the Army, helped with the Pentagon cleanup after September 11th. I spent time in Iraq. Came back home, got both my bachelor's and my master's in social work. And being a social worker, working with people, I've always been a people person. I've always enjoyed stories. I've used stories myself to get lost, to escape sometimes the harsh truths of reality. And I've always enjoyed free writing. I mean, as far back as I can remember anyway. And so that's kind of where this book came from, was just all of the culmination of my experiences in my lifetime and my enjoyment of reading.
Jason, thank you very much for that, man. First and foremost, thank you very much for your service. And, I do want to say, because it becomes more and more apparent to me every time I meet any military representative, that's the common phrase that's always used, right? Thank you very much for your service. And I'm not going to lie, Jason, it never seems like enough for the sacrifices that you and all of your military brothers and sisters have made to protect our freedoms here in the States. It's all we have to offer. Well, it's all I have to offer at this moment. So that's what I'm going to offer. But I always, again, increasingly feel more and more uneasy by saying those words because it just doesn't seem like I'm doing enough to do that. But thank you again very much for your service. Now, Jason, I didn't initially want to go here, but after that opening, well, I can't see myself going anywhere else. Okay, I want to talk about inspiration here for a second. Now, I know you said you were an avid reader. You had this love for it growing up, so I can start to connect the dots, but your background is in the military, right? So when it comes to writing and publishing these books, man, what inspired you to do that?
So, honestly, this book came from a very, very vivid dream that I had. It was the first one that I can ever remember having where I wasn't a participant in the dream. It was literally like I was watching blips from a movie reel, and it was so surreal. It was so vivid of a dream. It was one of those ones where you just wake up and it affects you, the rest of the day, and you're just like, man. And to be honest, with just life in general, things going on, whatever, I had gotten out of the habit of free writing, and so that one just kind of stuck with me. And I'm like, that's a good story. Like, that would be a good book, or that would, And so I wrote down what I remembered from the dreams, and just kind of allowed myself to take the story where it would. And so, that's kind of the inspiration, is just not to cut it short or anything, but it was I don't know. It was like it was meant to be. It was literally a dream that I'd never had before.
Yeah. Listen, I love that. I love that. Thank you very much. Listen, without further ado, The Anchor is all about your fantastic novel, Initium Novum, New Beginnings. Tell us a little bit more about it.
So it is a dystopian future where, unlike most dystopian stories, even though there is war that kind of led to that, it's more about the human greed, about the taking and stealing of natural resources, the decimation to this planet is really what causes the dystopia. And so people have to go underground. They have to, the temperatures on the Earth's surface become too unbearable. And so in an attempt to save humankind, an alliance is formed, but then that alliance even becomes corrupt. And so there's a clear division between ultimately, what we all think of as good versus bad, or good versus evil. And so it's a wealthy elite class that is holding the majority of the little resources that are left, and what would be rebel forces trying to survive. And so that's the setting for the opening of the story.
People, I'm telling you, when I started the interview, I was talking about how, of course, the book is for entertainment, right? So it's something to help you pass by some time on a rainy day. But there are also some, at least to me, some pretty stark contrasts to reality and what can actually happen. Hoping it doesn't. The optimist in me is, staying positive. But when we're talking about greed, we're talking about really utilizing a lot of the Earth's natural resources. I mean, these are things that we hear every single day. These are stories that we hear about currently happening. So when you start to read the book, keep that in mind, because it may help you shift your way of thinking on certain things. I'm loving it. Who would you say, two-part question here with this next one, Jason, but who would you say is your intended reader with the book? And what is what is the main message that you're hoping that they receive after reading it?
So honestly, I want everyone, not to, talking about greed. But honestly, my intention was to try and hit at least, teenager upward.
Yeah.
There is, there's sci-fi, there's action, there's also some romance in there. And I feel like the storyline is digestible by anyone that is at least a teenager and above. They can grasp the concepts, the relationship building between the characters, the conflict. So yeah, honestly, I wrote it for everyone. My hope was to let everyone get something from it from different perspectives. So
love that.
Now the takeaway is kind of what you were alluding to earlier, was that anyone can make the choice to step up. One thing that I've learned over my lifetime is in any given moment, we have an infinite number of choices that we can make. Mm-hmm. And just making those choices that align with our morals and our ethics, that better those around us, better the environment, the situation. Those are the choices that matter. And no matter what your position is in life, where you are, your stature, your resources, there's always something you can do when things feel hopeless, when things feel like everything's crashing around you. Mm-hmm. There's always something that you can do. And that's, in a fantastical way through the story, I hope that's the message that people receive.
Absolutely. Jason, diving down the rabbit hole here with this next one, but if you could enter the world of the book that you've created, which page would you land on and why?
Man, that's tough. So I guess what I will go to is the actual image that I had from one of the images that I had from my dream. And that isn't necessarily the climax, but it's definitely the build up to the climax. And it is towards the end of the book, where the rebel forces are making a stand, where the average Joe of this story has fully embraced his role in the rebels being able to survive and live on. He's accepted his, I don't want to call it fate, because I don't necessarily believe in that, but he accepted his role. He accepted his place. And that's kind of, for me, the real turning point in the story, where he's no longer fighting that idea. Like he didn't want to have that responsibility. He didn't want to have that weight on his shoulders. He fought it because he didn't want to have it. And he finally accepts that, okay, this is me. This is what I have to do, and just that moment of, okay, surrender to the powers that be, to whatever, the universe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, people, I know you're like me. You're at the edge of your seat. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, oneauthor.net. There is a whole plethora of places that you're going to need to go and purchase your copies, that you'll be able to find it, okay? Simply search Jason Dye, Initium Novum, New Beginnings, and you're going to be greeted with a whole host of them. Head on over there, pick up your copies today. And as I've mentioned, this is not the only book that he has written. Now, it's the only book available for purchase at this time, but remember, there are 7 others. This man is putting in work, and hopefully much, much more on the horizon. Now, Jason, we have a few minutes here, and I do want to give you the opportunity please go into another one of your books because, of course, nobody knows them as well as you do. Give us a brief synopsis, dealer's choice here, on one of the other ones.
So the one that is different from all the other ones that I'm really excited to get out there is related to mental health. Like I said, I've been a social worker for almost 10 years now. And mental health awareness is something that I'm very particular to, especially with the amount of suicides and things of that nature, especially in the military community. Something that is very near and dear to me. I've been the survivor of, unfortunately, too many suicides. And so I wanted to write a book that spoke to that. There's still so much of a stigma around mental health. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted it to be a story that people could identify with, that people could learn from without the fear of being exposed necessarily, without the fear of any repercussions from anybody. Just a story that not only is informative about mental health issues, but also is very relatable. And so the base of this story is in a world where medically assisted suicide and euthanasia is legal. And a family, a typical, American family, struggles with mental health issues, and just their day in, day out of how they deal and cope with those mental health issues, the resources, the lack of resources, the public opinion, all of that stuff. And so that one is definitely near to my heart, and one that I am very excited to get out there for people who are losing hope, who need something to grasp onto, something to identify with, so that they don't feel so alone.
Yeah. Well, listen, you said a mouthful there. The part that got me was the lack of resources, because, again, something that we are currently dealing with in society, and something that affects a large portion of the population. And so many of my listening audience members currently, the moment you said that, I'm sure they felt it in a way, as I know I have as well. So thank you for that. Looking forward to it. And Jason, here, last question, man. And I think I would be doing my listening audience a severe disservice if I didn't ask it. So we know that, of course, Initium Novum, it's the book that we discussed here today. You have 7 others that you are also in the process of creating. So you are, without a shadow of a doubt, a bona fide author. You've gone through the process of writing your narratives. You've also gone through the process of getting published. And we understand that anybody that's been through it understands that, listen, writing the book is only half the battle. Getting it published is a completely new adventure in and of itself. So I want to take this opportunity for any new writers out there listening in right now. What are some words of wisdom that you could offer them about the journey they're getting ready to take?
Sure. So the good news is that there is a lot of self-publishing companies out there to choose from. So it's a lot easier than I anticipated to find a publisher. There are so many out there. So what I would say is do your research. One of the things that I took away from the military was the 7 Ps. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. And so do your research. Research the companies. Make sure you fully read everything. There's a wide variety of prices for publication and what they can offer you. Lean into those who know what they're doing. You're going to have to be able to trust people that you don't get to see face to face. You don't even really get to talk to on the phone. And so you want to align with a company that shares your values, that shares your morals, that you truly believe has your best interest at heart. And so that's what I would say is it's out there. There are companies out there, and there are good ones. And so take your time, do your research, and pick the one that is best for you.
Great advice. Great advice. And listen, I mean, what I'm hearing from all of that and what you could take if you're not a writer is, listen, no matter what it is that you're doing, do your due diligence, right? Research, make sure that you are prepared and prepped. I love that advice. And people, you know what I love even more is we are at the end of the interview now. We've discussed so much information, and yet somehow we've barely scratched the surface. I mean, there's so much left to be discovered. I'm going to say it for you again. I know I don't have to. I know the majority of you are like me. You're already going through the process of purchasing the book as we speak. But I'm going to say it just to re-impress it one last time. We're here on the line with Jason Dye. We finished discussing his amazing book, Initium Novum, New Beginnings, available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, Walmart. I'm telling you, wherever books are sold, you can find your copy. But check out his personal website, the1author.net, to gather everything that he has in store, and check back in frequently because, of course, as we've mentioned a number of times, there are 7 other books to this date that are expected to be released, hopefully much, much more. Jason, this has been a true pleasure, man, an absolute delight. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you much. I appreciate you.